And welcome into Teal, the show. We're joining you live here from the Community First Igloo as we get you ready for what's next with the Jaguars. We got Alessandro Pompey here alongside Aaron Beasley, of course, former Jaguars player, who's back with us for another week. This is a big week for the Jaguars. They're coming off a big win against the Titans last week. Let's start with that game. The Titans game was one that the Jaguars kind of needed after a struggling performance against the 49ers a week before, one that we don't need to talk about too much.
And the great thing is that we finally saw the offense click. They needed that it game. And today Trevor Lawrence was asked if they needed the win against the Titans to keep the offense going. He said maybe need is not the correct word, but it definitely is going to keep them into their season, which they need into this Texans game.
Yeah, each game's really important, especially when you start getting to this time of the year.
Every game is like a playoff game right now because, you know, with Houston right there, right behind us, I mean, we can't afford to lose anything because we're going to play them again, and maybe that'll give us an advantage. But every game from now on is a playoff game.
All right, Jaguars have already won 7 games this season. That makes this year better than like half of the years in franchise history, at least win-wise. So that means this is already one that you kind of want to remember that Jaguars fans need to enjoy every second of. But Doug Peterson wants to make sure this team understands that so far, the team hasn't done anything yet. There's still a lot of games left to play and a lot of things left for them to earn.
We still have to understand that, you know, we still haven't done anything, right? I mean, yeah, okay, we got in the playoffs last year, but didn't do anything. You know, we didn't finish, right? So we have to play the same way. We got to play as we've got everything to prove. Our back's against the wall. It's a playoff atmosphere, you know. You can't make mistakes. You saw Sunday when you take care of the football, you know, and you create the takeaways defensively and special teams, you can score points. And that's what a lot of these games boil down to. And, you know, you have to match intensity week to week. Whether they're matching ours or we're matching theirs. And this team, you know, beat us up pretty good in the first matchup. So, you know, just gonna be a great football game.
Look, as we go through the season, like you mentioned, each game gets that much more important. The intensity starts to get up. You can't use that, oh, it's the early in the season excuse anymore. Aaron, you've been in the games like these late in the year. You know the importance as you start to get into November and December. That's when the games are the most important. You have to win those.
Well, you know, just from my experience, you always want to finish strong because momentum is a serious thing. You know, you can't see it, you can't touch it, but it's a part of every game, every season. And you want to go into a playoff with good momentum.
Right, momentum going into the postseason, huge. I know some players buy into it a little bit more than others. I know Foye Oluokun, Jaguars linebacker, he's not a fan of using the term momentum, but that might be that Ivy League education because he starts going to definitions on you real quick with that. All right, the Jaguars definitely need to have some momentum. They had it for a little while there, but that 49ers game kind of felt like one that stops your momentum in its tracks, right?
And we kind of talked about this. Really good teams, they're not going to lose twice, especially 2 in a row. And the Jaguars, they're a good team. So, of course, that wasn't going to happen, and Doug Peterson wasn't going to let that happen. But to your point, this Texans game is really, really important. It's for the AFC South top spot. And right now the Jaguars have the top spot, but the Houston Texans, they're right on their heels, only 1 game behind.
Yeah, this is going to be a close race to the finish. A race I don't think anybody had on their bingo card going into the season, but here we are. We're in November, and the Jaguars are in a tight race with the Houston Texans in a game that they have to win. Jaguars have only lost 3 games so far this year, so there's definitely no reason to panic. I think we were saying this, ease off of the edge after that last loss against the 49ers. But Josh Allen, who's been having a phenomenal season for the Jaguars, said the team understands why they lose games, and they know they just have to play their game because when they do, they're a tough team to stop.
We know why we lose, you know. It's obviously when every team has, you know, there's ways of winning. When we look at ours, we don't accomplish those things. And when we don't accomplish our feats, we lose. And we don't lose, we lose. So, but we know once everybody's handling the business, man, we're a tough team to play against, and we want to keep this streak going.
It's really that simple for them, right? When they play their game, they have won games this season. In the 3 games that they've lost, it hasn't really looked like at least the brand of football that Doug Peterson and this team want to play.
One of the things a lot of people don't realize is how much choreography goes into a game and a game plan. Well, it looks like that San Fran game, we're out of whack. We're We were doing things that were out of the norm, and it looked like this past game we just stuck to the game plan. We played a lot more consistent, and that's what it's going to take to win every game. One play at a time, 60 plays a game.
I like that choreography. You don't hear that used with football very often, but I like it. It makes sense.
It's like a piece of art. Would you say?
That's what I would say. I mean, because, everything is rhythm and timing. You hear all those words, and it's kind of like when I teach a defensive back, you got to have good footwork, but you have to have rhythm in your footwork. And that's when you see a quarterback dropping back, he should be throwing on time.
Yeah, and we saw that rhythm, that choreography between Trevor Lawrence and Calvin Ridley this past week. The two had a huge game.
Beautiful.
That finally looked like the two are getting on the same page, which they've been trying to figure out all year. The Jaguars offense seemed like they finally kind of figured out ways to utilize Calvin Ridley, get him on that rhythm with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, we were talking to Calvin Ridley today in the locker room, and he said that Houston Texans game, he doesn't really want to watch that back because he said he didn't play well. But what we've seen from Calvin Ridley all season is he is very critical of himself.
Yeah, Calvin said he's his biggest critic. And you have to be that way as a professional athlete. If you're not and you're constantly relying on the coach, those aren't typically the type of guys that make it to the NFL, but you're definitely not the kind of guys that stay there for very long.
I'm sure he has some high standards. I mean, he missed 2 years. And he wants to prove a lot of people that he still can play this game because he could get another contract. The money out there is good.
That's definitely something that I'm sure he's looking ahead to and that we'll be talking about when we cover the Jaguars over the next few months. But right now, Jaguars have a big game against the Houston Texans. We'll talk a little bit more about that when Teal the Show continues right after this quick break. Welcome back into Teal the Show. Here's a look at how the AFC South standings are stacking up right now. Jaguars are right there at the top, but the Houston Texans are right on their heels, one game behind. That means a win on Sunday by the Texans would then put them in first place with 7 wins because then they would have swept the Jaguars this season. That's not something that the Jags want to have happen. Right now they're in the driver's seat, and you want to stay there.
Yeah, Jaguars fans are not going to like you saying that. Come on, Jamal, you're in Jacksonville territory.
Hey, look, that's the reality of the situation. The Jags want to stay in the driver's seat.
Absolutely.
If they lose on Sunday, they won't be.
Yeah, because you don't want to have to rely on other teams and other divisions. So, like we always say, the only guaranteed playoff is win your division. And then we are guaranteed a home game as well.
That's it.
We finally got that home win that looked like a home team now.
Finally figuring out how to play on that home field. Look, you want to stay in the driver's seat. Last year, we were sitting there crunching scenarios like, okay, well, you need this to happen. You need the Titans to lose, trying to make sure that they were getting it. They don't want to have to copy and paste that. They've been in the driver's seat all season long. They need to get a win this week to make sure that they stay in the driver's seat. Nothing wrong with ride passenger every once in a while, but if you can be the driver, you be the driver. Control your own destiny.
Well, listen, I'm not a very good driver. I'm from New York. So I may not want to be the driver, but I understand where you're coming from. The Jaguars definitely want to. And listen, they're playing really well right now, but so are the Texans. So it'll be a good matchup Sunday.
Now, the thing is, the Jaguars lost to the Texans back in Week 3. So the Texans already own one of the wins in the series for this year. The Jaguars team this week knows they need a win. They know what's on the line, but they also know maybe they owe the Texans a little bit of payback for how that first game went.
We definitely have to use that for motivation because they did come in here and beat us at home, and I feel like we got to go out there and just kind of repay them that favor, honestly. And we know how big this game is going to be, but we just got to just look at it as just the next one, like just get 1-0. Don't put too much pressure on it.
Is payback a thing that comes into play this week since they got y'all the first go around?
I don't know how. I mean, that's how we should look at it. I think we should look at it like that. I think it'll make us give us. I mean, that's how I look at it. I think we all should look at it. I mean, I played bad that game. I'm ready to get them, but the way today went, I could tell like, all right, yeah, we finna go over there. We're gonna at least be a good team that day. I know that for sure.
Look, you heard it from Calvin Ridley. He looks at it like payback, and he hopes everybody else on the roster looks at it like payback. So, Aaron, do players really look at it like payback?
I think so. I mean, I still don't like the Tennessee Titans, and that's since '99. So that game was very important to me this past weekend. But, I mean, you have pride in what you do. And, I mean, we want to make that next step as a franchise. We have to win a game like this because this proves that we're at that next level. I mean, there's tiers of this. The Kansas Cities, I don't know, maybe the Dolphins, and we want to be in that next tier right there.
Yeah, Jaguars definitely have a lot of work to do if they want to be in that next tier. You're right. They have to win games like this one. Right now, they're hanging out with the elite teams in the AFC. Let's take a look at how the AFC is stacking up right now. And the Jaguars are right there in the thick of it. The Ravens are at the top with 8-3 record, but the Jaguars are right behind them. 7 wins, tied with some of these other elite teams around the AFC. Good news is the Jaguars have a game against the Ravens, and they have a game against the Browns, so they could easily pull away from those teams as we start talking about, can they be that elite team to come out as the #1 seed in the AFC?
Well, the good thing, the Ravens are here at Jacksonville, so hopefully that home field advantage can help them. But you're right, 3 of their upcoming opponents are on that top 6 rankings list. That's kind of a daunting task for the Jaguars.
Yeah, they have some challenges left this season, but it feels like this team is built for those challenges. They seem to get up for those big games every time. And it's some of the other games that you think, that, okay, well, they got this one in hand, and those are the ones where they come out flat, almost like they did in week 3 against the Texans.
Yep.
It kind of felt like they were looking past Houston a little bit.
I don't know how you possibly do that because those guys get paid as well, you know, and they have a lot of pride. And you think every team primarily has All-Americans and some of the best players that come through their colleges. So you got to take every game, every play serious.
All right, we've still got plenty more Teal the Show coming up. Right after this, we'll talk a little bit about Trevor Lawrence and an award that he was given today. That's straight ahead when Teal the Show returns. Welcome back here into Teal the Show. Jaguars are getting ready for their game against the Houston Texans. Trevor had a big game against the Titans. Finally saw him kind of getting into his groove. We talked about him and Calvin Ridley early in the show. Trevor had such a big week that he was the AFC Player of the Week, Offensive Player of the Week, and he also got another award today that saw him get slimed. He's the MVP for Nickelodeon. They got him after practice. Of course, his offensive linemen were the one to dump the slime on him. He can't get mad at those guys since they're the ones that keep him upright.
Not the hair.
I was just about to say that, not the luscious locks.
In the hair. You can hear one of the people that helped set it up outside say, your wife approved it. Your wife said it was okay. So they got permission from home. So I'm sure maybe she'll help him get it out later.
Listen, I would love an award, but
I don't want our quarterback blind now, you know?
Yeah, hey, look, they've done this a time or two. He's the second Jaguars player to get named an MVP. Josh Allen was named a couple of years ago as an MVP and was slimed after practice. So now Trevor Lawrence has had the honor.
that slime looks horrible, though.
Do
you really want that?
It has stained some people before where they said it. I think if I remember correctly, after Josh got it done, he said it was tough getting it off. Ooh. So we'll see if Trevor shows up to the game green on Sunday.
Just get a win.
Just get a win. That's all that matters.
Looks like
it don't matter. If his hair is green, we'll just say it was for the Grinch. He's getting in the holiday spirit a little early, right?
I agree.
There you go. Or spoiling the Texans' holiday.
He was dropping
because he's the
gifts.
Grinch.
He's the Grinch.
Sense, yeah.
He was dropping some gifts as throws. I'll tell you that.
See, there it is.
Because the one thing, like, we're open in the NFL is so much of a slimmer proposition than college.
Right.
He was putting some of those balls where only our receivers could catch it, and I loved it.
And Trevor's had a pretty good season so far. Let's take a look at some of Trevor's stats. We kind of worked through. He's had some ups and downs, but his completion percentage is high. He's over 2,000 yards passing, 11 touchdowns to just the 6 interceptions, and he got his 2 rushing touchdowns last week. Trevor's been rolling. The offense has been kind of finding its way, but he's going to be going against a quarterback that is really just getting to the NFL. You talked about the difference in those windows from college to the NFL, Aaron, and C.J. Stroud has transitioned seamlessly.
He's hitting them. I thought he was the #1 quarterback just because of the size factor. I feel like he's a little more sturdy than the guy for the Panthers right now.
Bryce Young.
Yep. And, you see it. He's 6'3", he's about 220, and he's very composed, and that's what it takes up there.
Yeah, so far in the NFL, his anticipation has
phenomenal.
been phenomenal.
Yeah, Mike Caldwell said earlier today, Jaguars defensive coordinator, that he's so mature for a young kid, a rookie quarterback. Usually you would see maybe he gets a little flustered, kind of like we've seen Bryce Young, the former Alabama quarterback. That's where I went to school. Poor guy. But C.J. Stroud's doing so well this season, and a lot of people didn't think so. Look at the Texans last year compared to the Texans this year. Completely different team.
Yeah. It's a very different team, and a lot of that's the influence of C.J. Stroud. And also their head coach, D'Amico Ryans, has done a fantastic job so far this year, so nothing away from them. We didn't expect the Texans to be here, but here they are. You hit on a rookie quarterback like that, and you hit in a big way, and the Panthers are sitting there saying, well, we wish we'd have taken that guy. Now the Texans are in business.
Well, he's a leader. I mean, that's the one thing you can see how the team gravitates around him. I mean, they play with such energy. And I feel like the coach as well, when you got a guy that played in the NFL, great coordinator for the 49ers, he knows the game, and he knows how to put players in positions to win.
All right, so one question I got for you. I want you to put your DB hat on. C.J. Stroud, to me, one of the strengths of his game has been the anticipation he's been able to throw at. What sort of challenge is that for defensive backs when you know a quarterback is going to throw it well before the guy's even outside his break?
Well, especially with today's game, the back shoulder fades, and sometimes they throw it deep, but it's just playing the coverage to me. You know, all you can do is what you can do. These guys now are very acrobatic. They're very athletic. They're bigger. I mean, some of these receivers are so much bigger, and then you got the guys that are number 10 for Miami, so fast, Tyreek Hill. But, I mean, you just got to play and just keep playing because they're going to make plays.
Yeah, and that's what we've seen so far. Tank Dell has been making a lot of plays for the Texans.
And we kind of spoke on the explosive plays, which the Jaguars really haven't had this season until last week when they had 12 plays of 10 or more yards. Remember, that was in my story. But the Texans are able to connect on those explosive plays, especially on the field, mostly because of C.J. Stroud. So that's something that, obviously, as a defensive back, they have to be very careful of for the Jaguars.
I would say that every game now. I mean, every team now has some kind of trickery, we call it, like the RPOs, where you have to be very disciplined where your reads are, because when you get out of place nowadays, these guys are, like you said, they're throwing the ball on time and to a spot.
Yeah, no team wants to get beat deep. That's part of the commandments of every defense. Don't get beat over the top. Maybe the Texans can be slowed down because they eat a little bit too much turkey or ham on Thanksgiving. Coming up after this quick break, we'll come back for Teal the Show. We'll hear from some of the guys on what their plans are for the holiday and maybe if it'll be slowing the Texans down on the field on Sunday. That's straight ahead right after this break. Welcome back here live at the Community First Igloo. All right, Aaron, we're counting down to kickoff. We're getting closer and closer to the game. What do you think your keys to the game are for the Jaguars against the Texans?
Always start fast for us. I feel like when we start fast, our confidence builds, and we build off of that. I would say controlling the line of scrimmage. Every game is the same keys to me. Stop the run, have great third downs, and win the turnover battle, which we've been doing in our games that we won.
Right.
If we do that like normal, we'll win this one.
Those are big, and they have to handle the holiday week right. This is, of course, Thanksgiving week, right? Travis Etienne, who's from Louisiana, so close to my heart, said that he's planning to try and cook his family's Thanksgiving turkey this year.
Probably some turkey, probably a fried turkey. I feel like I haven't had that in like 2 or 3 years, so I feel like I want to indulge in that this Thanksgiving.
You frying it or mom frying it?
I'm gonna try to fry it.
You gonna do it yourself?
Yeah.
Have you ever done one before?
Hey, no.
You excited to try?
I'm definitely excited to try it. I just hope it's really good. I hope the family likes it and they don't pick on me for it being terrible.
All right, Aaron, you said you've actually fried a turkey before. Give me one quick tip on what Travis needs to do.
Pat dry your turkey. You know, you don't want that water to get in that oil and it pops up on you because we need you for this game. We don't want you with some grease burns going out there trying to hold on to the ball.
All right, Travis, if you're listening, make sure you pat dry that turkey. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us here on Teal the Show. We'll see you here same time next week live at the Community First Igloo. Good night, everybody.